If you had a timer that could drip out someone's worst moments at the exact second their life could bloom, would you use it? If you listen on, you might see how envy hijacks your choices, and you might learn how to stop being the villain in your own timeline. We drop in the middle of a live stream where the calm voice shakes like a glass on a shaky table. The creator is Maya, who sells peace to strangers and now cannot find a full breath. The chat is a bonfire, and every new message is a fresh log. On her desk sits a small timer that used to help her focus, and now only counts dread. She is 31 and looks younger under a ring light and older in the comments. A new expose just hit at the exact minute her stream went live. Someone planned that drop with cruel care. The clip shows a rehearsal, where her voice sounds sharp and flat at once. It is cut to make her look like she mocks grief. Sponsors write private emails and use soft words that mean please wait. Her partner Theo sits out of frame and watches metrics fall like rain. He knows these storms, and he knows they are not random. He knows only one person ever cared this much about minutes. Years ago, there were 2 girls in a dorm who shared one beat-up laptop and one huge idea. They tried things on weekends and filmed at night when the hall was quiet. Maya was the face because the lens loved her, and she did not argue with that. Lena was the cutter and the timekeeper who made every upload hit the best hour. They promised each other they were a team, and then they let that promise sit without care. The channel grew, and time began to separate them grain by grain. When one girl was on camera, the other girl was in the darkroom, and time chose one over the other again and again. Envy does not explode on day 1. It ferments in a sealed jar and waits. Back in the live stream, the first fire cools after a long explanation. Maya shows the full rehearsal, and the harsh line becomes a tired joke that missed. Some viewers accept it, and some hold on to the worst angle because it fits the mood they like to feel. Theo uploads context and pats down the flames for now. Then the next Thursday at 9:59, a new leak lands like a letter you know you should not open. The leak is a calendar shot where Maya argues for boundaries that sound selfish when cropped. She says she cannot work free hours after midnight for a charity project, and the internet hears greed, not limits. She goes live again and explains burnout and how a person is not a battery, and some people nod. The relief lasts 2 days, and then the third drop hits the same minute and the same weekday. Now the target is age and filters, and the charge is that she sells youth in a bottle. She shows disclosures, a doctor note, and honest before and after frames. Still, the timer keeps ticking, and the audience now expects a small disaster each week. The pattern is the real trap, because it trains a crowd to arrive for pain at a set hour. Theo studies the timestamps, and his face hardens. He recognizes the rhythm like an old song. Only one person ever tuned their life to that exact beat. The name that sits behind his teeth is Lena. Once she was their anchor and their editor and their shared brain. When the lens chose Maya, Lena chose time and learned how to manage seconds like money. She became a fixer in the crisis world where rich clients buy clean mornings. She learned how to stack pain on a schedule so it bleeds slow and long. She grew expert at the time value of scandal, where a drop is worth more at the right minute. In the present, Maya loses a sponsor and tries to smile with no heat in it. She sleeps with the timer turned to the wall like a mirror she cannot face. She thinks about quitting and decides not to hand over the final cut. She calls it a small act of courage, and maybe it is the first one. Theo digs into a shell company that posts the and traces it to a tiny office with a big server bill. Behind that office is a boutique firm that sells silence and sells noise too. At the center sits Lena, who used to bake a cake alone on a birthday, while Maya filmed a brand spot about presents. Lena knows how to move a knife without leaving fingerprints. She has kept a neat archive of screenshots that feel like insurance and smell like old milk. She schedules the next leak and then goes for a walk at 9:59 to pretend she did not do it. City clocks glare like witnesses, and pigeons act like jurors. She tells herself she only seeks balance after years in a shadow. Balance is a nice word for payback when you say it with a soft face. Theo sits Maya down and shares the trace report without drama. He says the pattern is not only the day or the minute, but the exact seconds in the caption push. He says the only person who knows your upload cadence that well is a person who built it. Maya breathes in and breathes out and chooses a strange plan. She will go live 1 minute before the next drop, and she will confess to the one thing that is true and also hard. She will not confess to lies. She will confess to a friendship she failed. She will speak the unsent thank you that sat in her drafts for years and turned bitter. She will show the worst clip herself and wrap it in the truth that made it happen. She will ask thousands of strangers to look her in the eye and decide if growth is a real thing or a marketing word. The idea scares her and frees her in the same breath. The night before the stream, Theo finds an old file where Maya wrote, "You made me," and never sent it. He lays that sentence on the desk like a key. Maya looks at it and accepts that she hoarded credit like candy. She did that because time scared her, and because love from a crowd is a fast drug. Morning comes, and the clock starts its slow drum. At 9:58, she goes live with a simple title that says, "I am not your past." Her hands shake and then settle when she speaks the first plain line.
I chose the spotlight and I left someone in the dark, and I do not want to do that again.
The chat slows to read and then speeds to react. She tells the dorm story without gloss or glitter. She talks about a birthday where a friend waited with candles while she filmed a smile that was not real. She admits that control felt like love because poverty turned clocks into parents. She says time has been her boss and her alibi. She points at the timer on her desk and turns it to face her again. She says this is not an enemy, it is a mirror. Then she plays the old unreleased vlog that her attacker planned to play 1 minute later. In the clip, she jokes about an audience she did not respect yet, and it is ugly and young. She pauses the clip on her worst face and does not look away.
I said this because I was scared that I was a placeholder, and I turned that fear into meanness.
The words land because they are simple and exact. In another room across the city, a dashboard counts down to Lena's scheduled post. The progress bar moves like a slow blade. Lena watches Maya own the hour she has used for weeks to bruise her. She feels a strange pull that is not victory and not loss. It is the feeling you get when a story turns and you are not the author anymore. The scheduled leak publishes on time into the stream that already showed the same file. The impact dulls like a punch into a pillow. The crowd senses choreography of a different kind. They are used to weekly pain, and now they are given context before the wound. The rhythm changes, and the mood follows. After the stream ends, the metrics dip, wobble, and then begin a slow rise like a shy plant. The comments that remain are less clever and more honest, which is better for sleep. Lena sits with her laptop and stares at a folder called Past and a folder called Proof. The files feel heavier than they are because of what they have been asked to do. She opens an old draft apology she once wrote for a client who could not say sorry in their own voice. The lines are clear and kind and meant a lot and were never used. Theo sends a quiet note that says, "You wrote this and you know how to stop the bleeding." That line hits a locked door that opens a fraction. Lena writes an email to herself that does not ask for forgiveness from anyone else. It asks for honesty about the life she built out of sharp tools. She schedules it to arrive at 9:59, and then she unschedules it because some changes do not need a performance. The next week, no leak lands, and the crowd waits and then shrugs and moves on to anything else. The timer on Maya's desk becomes a cue for breath breaks during streams. She flips it and tells viewers to inhale and exhale and then carry on. Watch time rises when people are allowed to be human. The internet learns a softer beat for 5 minutes and then forgets, but that is still a start. The friendship between Maya and Lena does not become sweet or easy. It becomes quiet and real, and made of small acts like not using a knife you could use. They meet once at a small cafe where the music is too loud for hate. They do not hug, and they do not cry. They talk about rent and sleep and coffee that has gone cold.
I thought I wanted balance, but I wanted proof that I mattered.
The line is not a trick and not a play.
I kept the credit because fear told me it would run out.
They sit with that and watch a barista burn a milk pitcher and smile anyway. On the way out, Lena drops a small box on the table without a note. Inside is a metronome set to 60 beats per minute. Maya takes it home and lets it tick on a shelf where she cannot see it but can feel it. In the weeks that follow, a few people still try to pull her back into weekly outrage. She does not meet them at that minute anymore. She refuses to let strangers rent her pulse. She makes fewer videos, and they feel more like letters and less like ads. She tells one story per upload and leaves silence between scenes so the brain can absorb it. She does not win the week, but she wins sleep. Theo stops checking comments after midnight and learns how to let a day end. He reads before bed, and sometimes it is a cookbook because recipes are short and kind. The city keeps its noise, and the world keeps its drama. Somewhere, a new star rises with a new enemy who knows her calendar down to the minute. The lesson waits on a shelf for anyone who wants it. If you do not write your past, someone else will schedule it for you. If you let jealousy run your calendar, it will fill itself to the top with other people's bad days. Time is cruel, and that truth will not soften for anyone. Dignity is how you pace your steps between the ticks. Now let us rewind and feel the small beats you may have missed, because the rush is a thief. The first leak hurt because it erased context, and context is where compassion lives. The second leak hurt because it turned boundaries into sin, and that is a trick that works in every era. The third leak hurt because it touched a fear that rules many minds, which is the fear of age. Each time the fix was not clever, it was simple and steady. Tell the whole truth fast, admit the part you own, and do not hide behind spin. People know when you are talking like a person instead of a brand. The big turn was not the reveal of an enemy, but the reveal of the pattern. The enemy was the clock that had been fed a schedule of pain. Once you change the beat, the old steps look silly. That is why the counterstream worked better than a takedown. It broke the cadence and made the crowd listen in a new way. You can do that with your own life on a smaller stage. You can decide not to show up for your weekly self-hate and see what happens. You can write one sentence to someone you hurt and let it be the start of a new rhythm. Power is not loud here. It is quiet and stubborn. Now let us step into one last scene that seals the loop so your brain can rest. It is a Thursday at 9:58, and the room is lit by a soft lamp. Maya looks into the camera and sees not a crowd, but one person who might need a breath. She tells a small story about burning out on a day with no name. She says that silence is not the enemy, and that rest is not a crime.
I used to think momentum was oxygen, and now I think oxygen is oxygen.
The chat fills with nothing bright or cruel, just basic words that feel like a hand on a shoulder. Somewhere in another window, Lena closes a client file and opens a blank page that does not ask for blood. She writes a plan that builds rather than erases. It uses calendars for care instead of control. She sends an invoice that is smaller than last month and smiles because her sleep is larger. Theo plants a herb in a pot by the kitchen window and decides this is what he can manage today. The plant does not check its metrics and still grows. This is not a fairy tale, it is a daily system. The system is that you choose your timing with kindness. The system is that you check your motive before you press schedule. If the motive is envy, step away and drink water. If the motive is care, proceed and keep it simple. You already know how to do this because your body is a clock that wants a gentle beat. Your breath has been teaching you this from the start. Here is your fable, and I will keep it short so it sticks. Jealousy put events on the calendar, and truth took them off. Time stayed cold, and dignity warmed the space between the seconds. The friend you lost was not a villain or a saint. She was a person who chose a bad rhythm and then chose a better one. The public forgave the way publics do, which is uneven and noisy and good enough. A metronome kept ticking and reminded two women to go slower than the gossip and faster than the shame. You can live like that if you want. You can let the worst clip land and name it, and you can let the best part of you answer it without a whine. You can give your past the same care you give your hair before a photo. You can avoid becoming a curator of pain in the lives around you. That is the moral, and it is plain for a reason. Now I will wrap with a few words that are as simple as a nod at a door. Thank you for staying with me to the end. If this story gave you something real, please tap like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment. If you want to support this channel, you can use the QR code on the screen or the link in the description. In the description, you will also find links to other series that live in a very different world from this one. I hope you visit them when you want a fresh taste. Take care of your minutes, because they add up. I will see you in the next story, and I hope you bring a calm breath with you. Before we go, here is one last thought that fits in your pocket. Do not let jealousy run your schedule, because time is cruel enough. See you soon.